Hello everybody, I'm back to attempt to finish this today. If you watched the first part of this, thanks for listening to me talk for a long time. Look forward to doing that again today. Alright, so we did the pencil yesterday, and today I'm going to try to do an ink over that and see what we can learn about doing the various other aspects of the shading and the toning on this. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is sit with some kind of posture, and then I'm going to turn this layer blue and reduce the opacity to about 50%. Feeling like I'm going to be considerably less philosophical today and considerably more interested in laying down an ink layer. Can't really explain why that is. Just seems like the thing to do. Okay, so pen to paper. Here we go. I'm going to start with the figure, and probably I like to typically start with the fiddly bits and then work them back into the drawing, the broader strokes. So I'm gonna make my pen smaller because I always pick a tool that's too big. The kind of interplay between doing a pencil and an ink. And it's weird to be, I realized in the past how kind of strange it is to work a digital process but still kind of refer to the steps by their trad art names. It's really more of a rough and a finish as opposed to a pencil and an ink. But, when you're doing the ink really should move faster than the pencil, in my opinion. If you did a good job with the pencil, then the ink kind of does itself. If you didn't do a good job with the pencil, you will definitely notice that at the ink stage. Even stuff like in here where my line for the arm is really thick, and I kind of need to now decide, am I going to play for the shape on the inside of that line, or am I going to play for the shape on the outside of that line? One is going to make the arm considerably thicker than the other one, and if you recall from the video yesterday, excuse me, you recall from yesterday, I talked about how I wanted to make a thinner figure, so I think I'm going to try to play towards the inside of the line, but the general idea being that I shouldn't have to make that decision at this stage. And that's just kind of something I'm going to tuck away for later on a personal development front, is making my pencil lines a little more precise. And like in here, I cannot tell exactly what it was I was thinking there with that finger. This is, about 24 hours after I did the original pencil for this. I wonder if I had kept going, if I would maybe have a clearer sense in my head of what my plan was. But you really want to lay a blueprint for yourself in such a fashion where you don't have to worry about this stuff when you come back. So that's just always something that's good to keep in mind. When I'm doing my line art, my ink stuff, I do a lot more use of the undo button than I do eraser. chiefly because I like my ink lines to be nice and clean, and I don't like to see artifacts, and I don't like to see all better. Little tails, I hate that. See, that's not even good anymore. I really want. This is what's kind of funny is I still have the reference image up, but I'm hardly going to use it now because I did all of my kind of mapping out of what my version of this panel was going to be yesterday, and now I'm going in and executing on that plan. So I might check back on the original occasionally just to make sure I'm not really going wide with it, but for the most part I'm just going to be working on my own end right now. And here's some other stuff like the fringe on this. I could have maybe made it a little more clear to myself how I wanted to do that. So let's check, see. This is interesting because I always, when I'm talking about fringe and things like this, I like to make like, and I don't know if I've never actually been accused of this by anyone, but I've accused myself of it, of inking like I'm drawing for a coloring book, with solid lines going through everything. And you can see that, you know, that's not at all the process that was done here. So maybe I should try to be a little bit more like the master and do one of these. Now, the advantage of doing more filled in complete lines as opposed to kind of just little arrows and whatever that I'm doing here, consummate V's. I like that better than what I was doing, so we'll keep it up. We're gonna ink hair over this later, so I'm just gonna kind of try to figure out what the dress itself looks like, and then. But you know, when you're doing an ink and you can make a shape like that, and later when you're coloring, you can use the area select and grab into those lines and speed some of things up in that process. But we're not actually going to do coloring on this, so that's something that I need to keep in mind and do more detail work and more make the ink do more work in showing the detail and showing you what the actual stuff of the image is supposed to be. So something to keep in mind, something I usually do with color that I'm not going to do with color this time. So I still feel like the outside edge of the figure needs to be pretty well defined. I don't do a whole lot of modern clothing in my comics. It's either the future or the past from a costuming perspective. So it's kind of interesting to figure out what the fit of a more contemporary piece of clothing is supposed to be on a person. I feel like I'm speaking very softly today, so hopefully this is all picking up. I'll move the microphone a little closer. And this is another thing that's like, I kind of made these haphazard hash marks to mimic the folds on the chest here, but I think that Ito's were a little bit more deliberate than mine were. Things that I didn't even consider the possibility of them being problems yesterday are now cropping up and making me go, oh no. What have I done to myself? I think one of my goals in working on this channel is someday I want to make a video and spend the whole time talking about what a great job I'm doing and not all the mistakes I'm making. That's not bad. I like that. I got the hands out of the way right away. Don't got to worry about that anymore. Something I might do with the hands, because my fingers are a lot heftier than Ito's fingers are. I don't know if I want to try to do fingernails. Fingernails are really important for hand perspective because they let you know exactly how the hand is oriented. Now, this leads to two possible arguments, one of which is make sure your hands are oriented correctly so that your fingernails will look accurate when you put them on. Or conversely, put your fingernails on in such a fashion that makes the perspective of the hand look correct. And the other one being leave the fingernails off. That way when you have a more complex hand pose like this, you won't make it look wonky by raising the detail too much. And I think that's what Ito's done here, and I think looking at my fingernails that I've just kind of scribbled on there, I agree with that decision, and I'm going to leave them off. All right, back to the dress. So this is supposed to be a knot of some kind, and we'll just do something like that to suggest that. And the bow. That doesn't look like a bow. That doesn't look like anything. I had a dumb drawing blog back in the day called Be a Thing. So when I was first starting to try to figure out how to do art, my mantra was when you draw something, it should look like a thing. Sometimes that's the most you can ask for. The ribbon is flat, right? Like it's not a tapered ribbon, it's a flat edge. Let's try to make it look flat. Nice and thin. I'm using a 15-point brush here, and what's my canvas set at? Okay, this is a sideways American standard comic page, 6.88 by 10.44 inches in true American style. That's our standard size for a comic page. And I work at 600 DPI, so I am able to get away with kind of bigger brushes, and I think, it's supposed to lend itself to more detail. I don't take advantage of that in the way that I necessarily should, so hopefully something we'll be working on throughout this series. Another thing I realized as I was editing the video yesterday, and this is not a format that I'll be doing going forward, this shooting and editing a video in one day and then releasing it the next day, that's dumb. I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to figure out a way to pace this in such a fashion where I can give you a daily update, but not have to actually sit down and record and edit every day, because that's not sustainable. Lost my train of thought. Oh, but as I was editing the video yesterday, I realized to myself, I'm gonna have to bust out the synth and record some new, longer ambient tracks to sit in the back of these videos. You talk about doing like every part of the process yourself. That's like one of the main benefit of that is like you just have rights to everything because you made it. So you can do whatever you want with it. I'm actually tend to be fairly self-deprecating as I work on this stuff. Take it with a grain of salt. One thing I'm really happy with on how I did this is the line of the dress. Even though it's broken by the hand, I still feel like it reads as a single flowing line, even though it is two lines. Some of these cases, many lines. Should all draw longer, more confident lines. That could be a problem. That's a tangent. We don't want that. I haven't even drawn it, but I can tell it's going to be an issue. Let's see if we can... nuts. That would also be a tangent. Oh, what have I done to myself? Don't worry, we can fix this. We'll go the other way. There we go. All according to plan. Great. How's she looking? Pretty good. Kind of coloring booky. I'm actually going to leave off my sketch for a second and see if I can fix these fold lines just by... It's the fun thing about digital, so you can try out a technique like this, and if you mess it up, nothing lost. Mine is not going to be the same as his. That's fine. I am not Junji Ito, nor do I need to be. It's enough to be yourself. That's an interesting thing about working this stuff is like, if you have somebody, and I've got a lot of artists that I look up to, obviously, and I will jokingly say sometimes, like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. But you have, like, you can have an artist that you admire, and again, this is ironic about me saying this in a series where I copy people's panels, but you know, you can have an artist that you like and that you admire, but you shouldn't necessarily try to copy them one for one. The main reason being, like, if you're not going to be better than them, then why would anybody choose to read you over that, right? And the example I think is I used to always try to draw like Mike Mignola, and then I realized that I was making comics that it's like, well, I looking at my own comics would prefer to be reading Mike Mignola comics right now instead of my own. So what is the point exactly? Which is weird to think about. but I would encourage you to be different. Be a weirdo. One thing I like about this nice wide pleat here, I don't have that. I'm gonna make that. I want a wide pleat. That wide pleat is actually doing a lot of work in the composition, oddly enough. You know, it's really, here I'll do it's really doing a lot of work there. This is why we're doing this. We're figuring this kind of stuff out. That's cool. Something that I did not notice until right this second, that's really doing quite a bit of work. And mine is tangenting into the ribbon. I don't know if that's a proper term, tangenting. I think that's okay. Got that wide pleat there. And see, this is where kind of the issue of the tangent is, because here comes the ribbon, and then this line could be conceived of as turning into the line for the dress pleat, or also continuing the ribbon. So that's a problem. You know, it's like we want these two objects to intersect. We don't want them to be confused for one another. So let's finish drawing the pleat, because I think that's the more important thing. And then let's figure out how the ribbon sits on top of that. All of this is stuff that I should have figured out at the pencil stage. Tuck that away for future reference. And we're just kind of freewheeling here. Crisis averted. You've got tangents everywhere. Not anymore. Cool. Yeah, it looks way better. Getting a little fiddly up here, but I should really be focusing more on the broad strokes right now and less on this cleanup crap, but very rarely take my own advice. Pretty good. All right. Let's finish drawing the rest of the owl. Here's the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to lay in my panel right now. I'm going to do it like this. Choom, 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 choom. Too thick? We'll leave it on its own layer for the time being, in case I want to do it again. But it's just going to help me visualize the composition of the whole. And I put it on its own layer so that I can erase it, freely without messing up the rest of my drawing. I can do it nice and quickly. I'm going to leave it on its own layer for now, which is kind of dangerous if I do it without locking the layer, so I'm going to lock the layer. I'm a chaos person when it comes to my layering. I don't label things, I just hope for the best. And on my color pieces, I end up with, 100, 150 layers, something like that. So it's fun. I have a good time. The quality of Tomie's hair is a big, important thing. It needs to be straight, and it needs to feel heavy and thick and lustrous. There's a whole story dedicated to it. I'm going to do the thing that I normally do when I'm doing black hair, which is I'm going to handle the edges and I'm going to block out the entire thing, and then I'll go back and tap in the white and the gloss areas with an eraser. I'm a little concerned. I'm so bad at drawing bangs. I don't know why. I can't figure it out in my head, like how they work in 3D space. There's a lot of things about this head, and it's really kind of funny is at the beginning of the last video, I started talking about how I knew the correct way to draw a head, but that's not how I do it. And that's one of the things I was watching back as I'm editing. I'm like, well, you want to go on camera and sound like an idiot. Say, like, I know the correct way to do this, but I do it a different, worse way. I'm going to make a greater effort in the future to draw heads correctly, because it took like a second, and I was like happy with the first thing that came out. I was like, oh wow, that's actually pretty good. Imagine if I did that all the time. Imagine if you solved your problems before you even had them. So the hair and the face are kind of intrinsically linked here. So see if we get the nice curve of that. Let's see, this is a little bit different. First of all, working with a giant brush here. But forehead, right? And then we'll dip for the eye, and then the cheekbone down to the chin. I really like this line that I got for the cheek to the chin here. It kind of happened by accident yesterday. But now that I've seen it, I want to preserve it. And again, trying to play to the inside white space of the shape as opposed to the outside of where I can see my line. It's really more about shapes than lines at the end of the day. So the white space represents the shape, and that's what I want to preserve. Do an eye because it's there. Oh, come on, fools. Okay. I really want to do this as just a block space, but I don't know if it's a good idea, so I'm not going to do it yet. Follow your own advice. All right. Now I can go back to doing these hair edges. need to find a way to trust my pencil here. I'm actually gonna go make its own layer so I can be a little more cavalier about the way I'm doing this. This is an issue that I frequently have, is especially when you're doing like individual strands of hair, because it's like, where does the big black mass end and where do the individual strands begin? Because the idea that you want to convey is that the whole thing is individual strands, right? But you don't actually want to draw every individual strand. I'm kind of seeing over here areas where I didn't necessarily capture the composition correctly. But that's all okay. Just clean this up a little bit. Oops. There we go. One thing that I don't take advantage of working digitally is I really don't use any brush sets or like brush textures or anything like that. I just don't really like the way they look. And a lot of that is my kind of, my inability to use them effectively. Because I've seen other people use brushes to great effect. I'm not really one of them. It's chrome. Just a spider. Now the moment of truth. Skadoosh. Oh, that's the risky run. C'est la vie. Hey, not bad. First pass. One of my better black hairs. I was really impressed with the way that Junji Ito draws hair. Or what's the my phone is nowhere near me today. How am I going to look up things that I forgot? Don't worry, I've got the magic of the internet. Who wrote that PTSD radio manga? It's all about hair. Nakayama, okay. Masaaki Nakayama. PTSD radio, the cursed manga that will never be finished. Which is really a shame because it was very good. But Nakayama actually believes that he's cursed because of working on the manga, and so has ceased production of it. Which is kind of fascinating in its own right. But the kind of primary monster villain of that is Okushi-sama, who is a once benevolent spirit who was profaned at the end of World War II and turned into an evil spirit that likes to grab people by the hair and drag them off of things. Story is told in a very unsettling and out of sequence fashion, and is apparently never going to be finished. The story of the production of that manga is almost as interesting as the manga itself. Like I said, Nakayama believes that he's cursed. He and his assistants, while they were working on the manga in like a new studio that they rented, they've actually found a broken shrine in the ceiling of their studio space, and like a bunch of weird stuff happened to them after that, and to the point where the assistants would quit the project because they were being tormented by spirits supposedly, and it resulted in the manga being put on indefinite hiatus, and I don't think it's ever going to come back. But it was one of those things where he Nakayama, that is, put like a little blurb at the end of every volume talking about like the real life curse of working on the book. And I thought that it was I didn't realize that it was supposed to be autobiographical. I thought that it was like it was in like an extra spook for the end of your book, like, oh yeah, this is what happened to us when we were working on this. It's like, it's really creepy. And then the manga just stopped, and I'm like, well, what happened? I'm like, oh, all that stuff they were talking about actually happened to them. They that's why you're not getting any more. This is going pretty well. Now, will the eyes that I drew still look good after I hit them with the ink? It's like this weird thing about penciling that happens to me is it's like a lot of my time, that's bad, I hate that. Like a lot of the time I'm using a thick brush again. You know, a lot of the time I'll look at something that I've penciled and it's almost like my brain fills in the gaps of what I think the shape should look like. And so I look at it and I go, oh yeah, that's great. Put it in the drawer overnight, come back to it the next day, and it's like, try to ink it and can't get the shape to look right. I'm like, what's wrong? And this was perfect yesterday. Why is it no longer good? And it's like, I don't know. I think that my brain was doing some extra work to tell me that I did a good job, and I really needed to go back and tighten up that pencil a bit. And looking at this eye right now, I'm kind of getting that feeling like, oh, I don't know if that's as good as I thought it was. You see, like over here, this is more of a playful expression than what I've managed here. I think that's in the eyebrow. I think we need to point the brow up just a little bit. I think the muscle would be like there. And also, I'm not sure about my eyelid. Is that even necessary? So some things that are down to style, and some things you look back over at because my eyes look a little bit different. That's just the way I draw eyes. But looking over here, kind of some of the choices that were made in what to show and what not to. What's the reason for that? I tend to draw the eyelids in there because maybe I draw eyes a little bit more deep set. And maybe that's not what tummy is supposed to look like. So we're gonna leave them out. I've never really been a fan of this kind of ink work for shadow. I really prefer like a nice solid block. But we're asking ourselves here, like, what decisions were made and why were they made? I'm not sold on that yet. I'm not ready to commit to that yet. Yeah, let's draw some of these arm scars. I'm going to try to make this a finer point. And then, these are supposed to be kind of ragged, right? Because they're healing. And that's like the difference between, like that there is very, thinking about Dungeon Meshi. That looks like on Senshi's helmet, which means that's too clean. It's like decisions that were made, why were they made that way? What's happening in the story? What's happening with the character? These aren't fresh wounds, they're supposed to be scarred over and in the process of healing. So they need to look like that. And to avoid looking over and over at Ito's, do my best to trust my pencil here, that I got the orientation correct yesterday. You should always trust your pencil. Otherwise, why did you do it, right? There's actually a new Tomie story out yesterday, I think, for the first time in however long. I wonder when it's going to be translated into English. I'm trying to learn to read Japanese so that I don't have to wait for manga translations. But it's slow going. And once you learn all your hiragana and your katakana, you can read that on the page, which is kind of where I am right now. Can more or less reliably sound out most things that are written in hiragana. My katakana is not as good. But then, I try to read kanji, and it's like, oh no, I'm still a stupid baby, turns out. Can't trust your pencil if your pencil was incorrect. All right. Getting cut in the eyeball has got to be one of the more disturbing places to be cut. I hate it. Begs the question, who would even like such a thing? Don't answer. I don't want to know. Hey, great. Cool. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. This is taking way longer than I think it would if I was, drawing something original, just because I'm trying to duplicate this over. And I'm trying to think of how I want to do this episode-wise, and I think I might do one more episode where we talk about the tone. Kind of finish my line art today, and then come back and do the tone in one more episode, just so I don't keep you here for 2 hours, unless that's what you want. In which case, just watch all the videos back to back. But we are going to finish up doing the ink today. Or rather, I should say, we are going to finish up doing the line art today. I don't have very good art vocabulary, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I usually am. Pretty good. I am kind of going over the top of the line of the fringe a little bit with a more solid line, just because that makes me feel more comfortable. I like that a lot better. She's not smiling enough. That's the other thing. It's like, it's always like this little half smile with her. You creep. You creepy lady. I don't know why people listen to you. I love the way the cuts crisscross on the head like this. Brilliant. All right. Let's get the background in there. And this is like time to make decisions. Do I want to do this like Ito does it, or do I want to do it like I would do it? And how I would do it is do a different layer with the whole background on it, and I think the point is to do it like Ito would do it, though, right? We'll split the difference. I'm gonna cheat here. Is it cheating? No, not really, but what is cheating? I hate discourse. It's always stupid. It's always engagement bait. But one of the things that I saw, and I see it all the time, people are like, is it cheating to draw from reference? No. No, like that's not a debatable point. Just no. And I was thinking, like, how would you explain to somebody kind of how like important it is to use references when you're drawing, or at the very least how not cheating it is to use references when you're drawing. And the thing that I was thinking of is like if you went to see like an Olympic swimmer compete, right? You hear that, like, oh, I hear that they're fantastic. You never seen them compete before, but it's like, oh, they're a fantastic swimmer, and they do this and they do that, and you see them and they get in the pool and boom, 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 world record time set, and pop out of the pool, and you walk up to them and you go, oh, you use your arms when you swim? All right, that's kind of cheating, though, isn't it? Like, no, it's an essential part of the process. Yes, I'm sure it is possible to swim without your arms, but it's also expected that you would use them in order to win your Olympic gold medal if you had arms to use. Obviously, if you didn't have arms to use, then you could still swim. But why not use the tools that are available to you? I got a problem. My background's bad. I think I cheesed it out yesterday. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick with it. In my experience, if you start something and it doesn't quite turn out the way you wanted it to, if you stick with it and you keep developing it, that's a tangent, and you keep developing it, you will probably end up with a better result than if you trashed it and started over. Because a lot of this is part of the process, is part of the brain figuring out how to get what's in your head down onto the page. And it doesn't always work. There's a very toddler-esque quality to the way that drawing works for me sometimes, right? Where you have this perfect image in your head of exactly how you're going to do it and how it's going to look when you're done. And then you attack it with all the ferocity of a 3-year-old. And you look back at it and you go, that's not what was in here. And then you throw things. No, you don't. Hopefully not. But that's kind of something that I've been ingraining into myself over the past couple of years, is like, your first attempt is just that. It's your first attempt. And so if your first attempt is not what you wanted it to be, you can still go back and use what you learned in that first attempt to carry your second attempt, right? Rough draft, second draft, third draft. This is why we do editing, and see, this is already looking better. It's not the same, but it's better. And we can kind of see the way that the black space interplays with the white space. And I'm not going to get it exactly correct. One, because my field is a different size than Ito's. And two, because I'm using a big fat marker brush and not a brush pen. But we can capture the spirit. I'm kind of waffling on my approach here as to like going back and forth between we're getting it as close as possible to the original and we got the spirit. Whatever keeps you going, whatever keeps you working, whatever keeps you pushing on to that next thing. Here's what we're going to do. You put a bunch of layers in a folder and then select, this is CSP, I don't know if you can do this in other things, but if you put a bunch of layers in a folder and then select the folder as your selection, and you take the select tool and use those lines, every layer in there will count as one layer. And then you can go back to the layer you actually want to use Paint Bucket on and do it like that, like I just did. these like sea rocks, these sea cliffs that she's on here. I've done much worse work in my day. Sometimes that's all you can ask for, is to not do the worst. I love cooking shows. I love The Great British Bake Off. And here's something interesting. I'm trying to put this over here, and that doesn't work next to the hair because that's too much black. So we're going to move this down by the arm. But I love The Great British Bake Off, and that's one of my patented strategy, right, for winning The Great British Bake Off, is you only have to come in first place one time in the finale. The finale is the only time that you have to come in first place. Every other time you can just not be the worst and you can make it through. So it's like that. If I was ever on Great British Bake Off, that would be my goal every week. Is I just gotta not be the worst. But then they throw you curveballs and have those weeks where they're like, they won't eliminate anybody one week, so the next week they'll eliminate 2 people. So then it doesn't work. Then you have to be third from the bottom in order to continue. I am not a baker. I would not get far in the Great British Bake Off. But that's okay. I'm good at other stuff. I'm almost willing to say that I'm pretty darn good at drawing these sea rocks. Kind of impressed myself a bit. Not too much. Mine are not as good as Junji Ito's, but I don't think I was really expecting to do quite as well as Ito-sama. Yeah. All right. It's not exact. I'm not even sure I'd say it's close. But it's representational. I wonder if this was done from a photo reference. And I'm doing like a copy of a copy sort of thing here. Background like this is one of those things where it's like, I wonder if Ito even drew this. Or if it was done by an assistant. Well, that's cheating. It's not. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, I want to do the hair. And then we're going to call it an episode, I think. Come back to the tone tomorrow. Not tomorrow, soon. First, we're going to tap in this hair a bit. Make that blue so I can see it. Clean that up. Black. Down to here, and then we'll kind of just look at them side by side. I know I tapped these in yesterday on the sketch, but I so much about looking at my sketch. Maybe I shouldn't look at his drawing, and I should just look at mine, figure out the best way to make this work. So again, flowing. And lustrous. Tangerines. The flaming lips. It's not as going as well as it did on the sketch. It's because the lines are solid and I don't kind of have the soft layering up of pressure to deal with. It's like you gotta commit to it. Oh no, and I zoom in on this and I see my terrible Bobby. Dang it, Bobby. Tomie meets Hank Hill. Now there's a crossover that I really want to see. Is it just me, or does anybody else want to hack that girl to bits? I don't like these two. Yeah, okay. It's pretty good for black and white. That's kind of weird in there. One more thing. One more. Okay. Oh, the lips. One more. She's such a creep. What is it about that creepy lady? Alright, cool. I gotta shut this down or I'm gonna just sit here for the next hour and a half fiddling with this, which is really not what I want to do. I don't think it makes for compelling video. So I'm going to can this here. And tomorrow, I keep saying tomorrow, like I'm going to come do this every day. But next time, we're going to come back and what we're going to be taking a look at is the gray tones, which could be a very short episode or it could be a very long episode, kind of depending on how it all shakes out and how I want to do it. The one thing that I never did was the neck. And it's like, I think we are going to do it like this. We're going to commit to it. Commit to it right now. Not exactly the same, but we've got the spirit. And tomorrow, we're going to come back and we're going to finish up with the grays and the toning, and then maybe do some dialogue bubbles and finish this thing off. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like or comment or subscribe or any of those things to help me out with the channel. This is video number 2. So again, if you liked what you saw, give me a comment. Let me know that. If you have suggestions or anything for improvement, comment that as well. Remember that I'm a human being. And if you have panels that you want me to look at for future episodes, from your own comics or from other comics that you like, just send them over to my way, and we'll do what we can to get them onto the show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.